Welcome everyone. Whether you're joining us live or watching later, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being here. Now, before we begin, I need you to take a moment. And in that moment, I want you to take a breath and just allow yourself to arrive. Because while we're here, this right here is your space. This is your community. This is the inner circle. It is a space to reconnect with yourself, a space to find clarity, a space to remember, very important, for you to remember who you are. Today's Sunday alignment is built around a very, very powerful statement. A statement that changed my life. A statement that many survivors eventually learned the hard way. That statement, potential is not reality. Let me say that again. Potential is not reality. I want you to think about that for a moment. How many times, literally, how many times have you stayed because of potential? How many times have you looked at a situation and said, I know things are bad right now, but I can see who they could become. I know things are painful now, but maybe they're just going through something. I know this is not healthy, but I believe that they have a good heart. And before you know it, days become months. Months become years. And your life becomes attached to a future that never arrives. See, you were not loving reality. You were loving potential. And there is a difference. There is a huge difference. One of the most painful lessons I learned was realizing that I was not attached to who someone consistently showed me that was who they were. I was attached to who they occasionally became. The apology, the promise, the good day, the version of them that showed up just often enough to keep hope alive. Keeping hope alive. But let me tell you something. Here is the truth. Patterns tell the truth. Not promises. Patterns. Let me explain that. See, if someone repeatedly lies, the pattern is the truth. If someone repeatedly manipulates, the pattern is the truth. If someone repeatedly disregards your boundaries, then the pattern is the truth. And one of the greatest acts of self-love is learning to trust patterns over promises. Now, I need to be clear about something. This isn't, and it never was, about blaming yourself. Many survivors carry shame. I know, I've been there. They say, I should have known better. They say, I wasted years. They say, I was stupid. No, you were hopeful. You were loving. You were loyal. See, you believed that people could grow. And that's not weaknesses. Those are literally beautiful qualities. The problem is not that you loved. The problem is that your love wasn't being matched by accountability. And you know what? Healing begins when we stop judging ourselves for caring. How many of us have done it? Judge ourselves for literally just being a human being and caring. And when you stop judging yourself for caring and start honoring yourself for surviving, it begins right there. That's the jump off point. Now, let me ask you something. What if everything you've been through has been teaching you something? I got to put this out there. This is so freaking important. What if the pain wasn't the end of your story? What if it was, this is a big word right here, what if it was preparation? Preparation to become stronger, preparation to become wiser, preparation to trust yourself again. Because I truly believe that healing is not about becoming who you were before. It's about becoming who you were always meant to be. And you know what I'm going to tell you? That definitely requires action. Not tomorrow. Definitely not next year. Today. Nowish. Okay? Maybe today's action is journaling. Maybe, just maybe, today's action is setting a boundary. Maybe, just maybe, today's action is attending more community discussions. Think about that. But maybe today's action is simply telling yourself the truth. And whatever that action may be, take one step. Because healing is not a single decision. Let me repeat that. Healing is not a single decision. Healing is a practice. And that is exactly why we created, this is an important part, pay attention. That's why we created the Real Talk Inner Circle. Not because healing happens in one conversation, because it doesn't. I know for a fact it doesn't. But because healing happens through consistency. I say that word a lot, consistency. It happens through support, another powerful word. It happens through education. It happens through education. It happens through community, through people who understand the journey you are on. But before we close, I want to leave you with a challenge. Tonight, I need you to write down 3 things. 3 patterns that you have been calling potential. 3 truths that you have literally, come on, let's look inside of ourselves, that you literally been avoiding. 3 realities you've already known in your heart. Isn't that the way we know? But we avoid dealing with that hard truth. And then I need you to ask yourself, what would change if I trusted what I know instead of what I hope for? Because I'm going to tell you, hope is beautiful, but healing requires truth. And truth is where freedom begins. I need you to remember something. You are not broken. You are definitely not defeated. And you are not who the pain tried to convince you that you were. You are still here. You are still standing. You are still worthy. And your best chapter has not been written yet. Let me say that again. Your best chapter has not been written yet. Choose peace. Choose yourself. Remember who you know the word that goes there. Remember who you are. And as always, I need you to stay powerful. Love you guys.